All right. So thought I'd switch it up a little bit. Still going through my Darjeeling first flush. First flush is this one is moonshine organic. I don't know exactly how many I have left, but I do have quite a few left. So definitely got to get through these to figure out what is going to be my purchase for the first flush Darjeeling Black. Now I'll say right away that the first flush white, I typically hot brew that one, and then the first flush black, I typically cold brew. In the past, I have purchased Spring Royale, I think for the last 2 years, and so this is my first time, going through all the different tea estates in Darjeeling to find kind of what's my favorite. So anyway, so this is the cold brew. With this lighting, it's not much color at all. However, when I was in the kitchen, it did have a green tint to it. But, again, this is, typical of a Darjeeling first flush, although this one I think is definitely a bit lighter, if not a lot lighter. The other really interesting thing about Darjeelings is that the classification system is, it's not completely different than what you find in China or elsewhere, but it is different in the fact that this is considered a black tea, and, that is not a black tea. I think what it really comes down to is it is, somewhat processed white tea that is usually grown for black tea. I think it's just tea bushes that are used to grow black tea. And I think that because the Darjeeling first flushes are so popular, that the tea farmers just decide to pick the bushes, 3 times a year. So you have the first flush, you have the second flush, which is what the black teas are really meant for. And then there's an autumn flush that I don't think is very popular, but I like a few, or at least one particular Darjeeling autumn flush. All right, so again, something of a green tint. You can kind of see it here now. Lots of little leaves. I think that's just having to do with the fact that been carrying this bag around for quite some time, and it does get smashed and stuff like that. So I think the quality is really good. Again, really light brew, and a bit of activity in the glass. Still fairly clean though. Oh, that's not good. I saw a hair, and even though the hair is mine, I don't much care for it. But I left my glass. Yeah, use this one. No, I definitely need the glass. All right. I'm gonna switch this around a little bit. Get rid of that. All right. Let's pour this up again. I was just about to pick the hair out, and I was like, nah, let's just pour it out and do it again. All right. So, of course, I'm going to do a cold brew and a hot brew. But I'm definitely for sure on these Darjeeling Blacks, really focusing on the cold brew more than anything. And again, still fairly clean. Definitely some activity there, as you can see. I like this one. It's not as sweet as I think the Spring Royale, or maybe even the oh, I forget the name, Sunrise, I think it's called. I may be wrong, but yeah, but not as sweet, but definitely really clean, really light blue. Some of that Darjeeling green freshness in there. Um, yeah, just really light. Yeah, just really light, but not bad. And the dry leaf um, has just a tiny bit of that Darjeeling spiciness, but overall, very, very light and bright odor. No, no like grassiness or anything like that. And so you can see kind of what those leaves look like. And so these are more than just plucked and allowed to dry. It looks like they've also been rolled a bit. And that is what, in my mind, makes it more of a black tea than a white tea. To me, the white teas from Darjeeling that I prefer are not rolled, and there's only maybe one or two where that is the case. All right, so I'm gonna hit this with really hot water, just to clean it, and also be able to get a really nice whiff of the wet leaf, and I also like to see kind of the leaves reconstituted um, after that first wash. They tend to turn a bright green. Some of the Darjeelings, and this one does have some bright green leaves in there, but they're mostly dark though. And already, without even putting my nose to the glass, I'm already getting some spinach notes on this thing. Yeah, and this is very typical of a Darjeeling black. So far, um, I say that this is a decent Darjeeling. It really is, but it is definitely on the lighter side. And I'm going to do a really fast pour on this. And a lot of the reason why I'm doing that is because these first flush Darjeelings don't typically do well with really hot water, but I just want to do that to kind of just, test this thing out and see what happens. After this, I'll step the temperature down. All right, so again, that was a really fast infusion. As you can see, the liquor is fairly opaque, and so clearly lots of activity in these leaves. Um, I say activity; it's just a bunch of leaf material, but I think it's like maybe like the little fuzzy hairs and stuff like that that grow on the leaves. But I really like to see that, just because when you have so much plant material, it just, for me, it feels as though you're getting more nutrition from that leaf. So yeah, this one is really thick. And for the cold brew to be as light as it was, really interested to see how this thick, viscous uh, liquor tastes. I imagine it's going to be light. Okay, so here's the thing. Definitely the spinach flavor. I will say this though, of all of the Darjeeling blacks that I've tasted that have had that spinach flavor, this one is much lighter, and because of that, more pleasant. You know, I like the Japanese greens, Gyokuro specifically, which is a very dark, very rich, very green tasting tea. I mean, it is like drinking literally spinach, right? And I like that. The Darjeelings, usually when they go to that vegetable, it's either like a vegetable broth or it's just like really strong spinach. I don't really prefer that. This one, however, I like because it's definitely that spinach flavor. I won't go so far to say vegetable broth, but just much lighter, much lighter. Just a much lighter spinach flavor. I wouldn't dare try to sweeten this. I wouldn't dare try to add milk to this or honey or sugar or anything like that. I'm certain that there's people out there that do and will, but I just can't imagine, and I'm afraid to try, honestly. This is very much a savory beverage. I don't see it as sweet at all. And again, that goes back to the cold brew. It was not sweet at all. I think again the Spring Royale and a few others that I've reviewed so far are definitely much sweeter, and I really prefer that in my Darjeeling black. Okay, so let's bring this temperature down and try to get it to 130 if possible. And hit this again. I'm going to assume that what's going to happen is that because it's such a light brew, I'm going to steep it for longer and see what happens with the strength of the brew. But also curious to see if there's any other flavors that come out, because it is possible. Like I said, it is kind of on the border of being a vegetable broth, but it's so far towards the spinach that I wouldn't go so far to say vegetable broth. Okay, 134 is good enough, and I'm going to possibly overbrew this, but just as an experiment, we'll see what happens. And I am using a bit more water than what I used before, so that'll kind of help even things out a little bit. And I'm just going to let this steep as long as my patience can stand it. And you can see all the little broken leaves in there. Again, this thing has been packed and prodded and smashed for quite some time now. So I don't know if that says anything about the quality of the leaf, but the liquor is very, very light. I can't really get much out of it at all. I do like the cold brew. It's just very, it's not weak. It's just very light. It's just not a lot of flavor there. I don't even think it's very refreshing either. I think so far, this is not what I would like to represent a Darjeeling black for someone who is new to tea. If I wanted to introduce someone to the Darjeeling First Flush Black, I would much prefer something like that was kind of spicy you know, like you can tell that it was used for chai. Or I would want something that was very sweet, you know. This one is just very light. Also, so far, I don't think that this is going to impress any of my tea friends. There's just not a lot to this. It is a very straightforward Darjeeling Black. However, you know, like I said, there's a lot of activity in this brew. I mean, it's very, very thick and sort of viscous. So, didn't overbrew it. What I will say about this, though, is that it occupies a very niche area of the Darjeeling Blacks in that it's not spicy. It is definitely that spinach flavor, but much lighter. And because of that, I like this one compared to all of the other spinach flavored Darjeeling Blacks. I like this one better. Like if I'm going to have a spinach flavored Darjeeling Black, I want to go with this one, right? So that's what I can say about it. You know, if you're someone that prefers those Darjeeling Black spinach flavored teas, but you find some of them are like too dark or too strong, this one is nice. It's really light and it's not like overpowering as far as the spinach flavor. But it's nice. I mean, that's definitely what it is. So yeah, that's it. Definitely going to infuse this a second time. I sincerely doubt it goes to 3 times. If it does, I'll come back and say something about it. But I think this is gonna just be cold water, you know. All right, from me to you, I'll